Rennie Gabriel is an astounding man, and you're going to absolutely love everything he shares with you. After 2 divorces and a business failure, Rennie went from broke at age 50 to multimillionaire after applying the 3 secrets of the wealthy despite failing high school maths. Rennie is a TEDx speaker, and he now donates 100% of the profits from his books and online programs to rescue dogs and soldiers. His award-winning best-selling book, Wealth on Any Income, has been translated into 8 languages. His second book is Attitudes of the Wealthy, which speaks about what separates the wealthy from the ordinary.
You're listening to Wealthy Advisor Mindset Podcast, a show dedicated to helping financial advisors grow their AUM while enjoying a great quality of life by creating a high-performance mindset. Guiding you on this podcast is none other than Nina Cook, a seasoned mindset coach who has worked with hundreds of business owners over the last decade to dissolve all their self-sabotaging behaviors and habits to achieve their business goals so they can have a much bigger impact and make much more money. Throughout the show, we'll deliver actionable strategies to grow your practice more easily and quickly, while revealing the incredible possibilities that emerge when you tap into your best self. Ready for a breakthrough that amplifies your impact and profits? Let's dive in.
What a wonderful introduction to you, and you have quite a story to share. So could you share the highlights of your story from how you went to being broke at age 50 to becoming a multimillionaire, and the role that your mindset played in that journey?
Thank you, Nina. It is such a pleasure to be on the show with you. So thank you for the opportunity. Now, I try to think of what the highlights are. And
the lowlights.
Oh, yeah, there were enough of those, I got to tell you. But the thing I realized is when I wrote the book, Attitudes of the Wealthy, I realized it was those attitudes that I decided to do 2 things with. And one of them is, I had to learn them, but more importantly, I had to apply them. Because what I realized, and it took me quite a long time, is there's such a huge gap between learning something and applying something. And I used to say, I learned the 3 secrets of the wealthy. So what? Until I apply them, nothing changes. And so first attitude that I realized was wealthy people are willing to ask for help. And what I mean by that is, if you look at, titans of industry, well, Nina, I'll ask you, do you think we'd have Apple Computer if it was Steve Jobs alone?
Probably not.
No, because it was Steve Wozniak who could build it. How effective do you think Berkshire Hathaway would be if it was only Warren Buffett without Charlie Munger?
Correct.
He was half of Berkshire Hathaway. I mean, you've got Hewlett and Packard. You've got example after example of no wealthy person creating anything really big or wonderful by themselves. And they ask for help. And whether it's a partner or whether they hire help, it doesn't really matter. They're not doing this stuff alone. When I finally recognized that, I was in my 40s. And the difficulty was I was a latchkey child when I was growing up. I'd come home from school at age 5 or 6. There were no parents home. I had blue-collar working class parents. They were working. They weren't at home when I came back from school. And so as a child, you make up things. And I made up the idea that if I'm going to take care of myself, if there's something that I need, I've got to do it by myself alone. There's no one else but me. Well, in your 30s and 40s, having a 5 or 6-year-old mentality running the show is not a good idea. It doesn't work well. And in a seminar in my 40s, I was finally willing to ask for help. The seminar was about doing some project that you don't know how to do. And so I said to the participants, I need to create a PERT chart. Do you know what a PERT chart is? Okay. It's a flow chart of how you go from when you have nothing to making a completed item. And the one person in the seminar who offered to help me was an aerospace engineer who did this for a living, who in my childhood mind, I said, he's the biggest nerd in this course. I want nothing to do with him before he offered to help me. So you never know where that help's going to come from. So the two things I learned: one, it works when you ask for help. And two, you don't know where it's going to come from.
Wonderful. Can I just jump in very quickly? My mantra in life is, if you don't ask, you don't get. And I teach that to my children. So just ask nicely and be prepared for a no, but you often get a yes.
Exactly. And that's a perfect analogy. If you don't ask, if I wouldn't have asked anyone for help, I would have not gotten it. And I'd have been struggling with this 5-year-old attitude of, I got to do it by myself. It was so much easier to have an aerospace engineer who did this for a living help me. And it turns out he's a great guy, and we got along well for so many years after that. You can't judge other people ahead of time. It just, that doesn't work.
It doesn't. Rennie, can I ask you a question? What's that switch in your head that you were prepared to let go of that belief?
I'm guessing it must have been something in the seminar where they were talking about maybe childhood or, being willing to ask for help. I don't know what it was. I figured, okay, I'll ask for help. I mean, the first time I asked for help in my marriage with my first wife, I got turned down. So all that did was reinforce my 5-year-old attitude.
But then the reason you were turned down is because you were expecting to be turned down because of the belief. So it just
Probably.
goes around.
Oh, yeah. I think, we have self-fulfilling prophecies. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. I mean, it was just, it was so funny. Yeah, I was probably in the back of my mind expecting she would turn me down, and sure enough, she did. And it was,
You were right.
yeah, exactly. I made myself right. Of course, it's not helpful, but I did it.
So we went to this seminar, you suddenly asked for help, you got help. So how did you go from being broke to becoming a multimillionaire?
Okay. Well, we can go to how I went broke. It was in the lovely introduction you gave me, 2 divorces and a business failure. I used another concept of the wealthy. I'm age 50. I'm not making a lot of money. That's why my book is called Wealth on Any Income. I'm earning $5,000 a month. I'm coaching other accountants and financial planners how to grow their businesses, and I'm getting $5,000 a month, from these several people as my coaching fees. And there's a 5,000-year-old concept. You and I have talked about this in the past, and it's outlined in the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. And it says, pay 10% off the top to yourself. You'll keep it for the rest of your life, so on and so forth. The way I phrase it is, treat yourself like you matter.
Yeah.
Which means you're the first in line to keep some of the money you're earning. And so I was setting aside $500 a month. The important part of that is it was the third time I tried it. And I'm 50 years of age, and I'm thinking in 15 years at age 65, when a lot of people look toward retiring, if I don't really get my act together at this point in life, I'll either be eating cat food or tuna at 65. And I said that to someone and they go, well, yeah, I think cat food's more expensive.
Yeah, probably.
So, it's sort of like, oh, well, wait a second. Then how do I create that? Anyway, the point being, I got serious. So in 3 years, I'd saved up $18,000. Well, whoopee, I'm 53 years old. I've got $18,000 to my name. But my third, final, best, most wonderful wife had someone in real estate who said, Rennie, I found this little 3-unit property and you should buy it. Great. $18,000 in Los Angeles doesn't buy anything. Not even a down payment for something. My wife said, well, if he says it's such a good deal, I'll chip in another 18. Well, now we got 36. That's half the down payment needed. And the realtor said, you know what? This is such a good deal. I'll chip in the other 36,000. The three of us will buy it together. Well, that 18,000 in a few years was worth 125,000. And I saw that this was working. And so I borrowed money. It's another attitude of the wealthy. You borrow money to create wealth. And I made down payments on more apartment buildings with my wife and the realtor. And we went from that first 3-unit purchase, we added 47 more units in the next 5 years.
Wow.
So by the time I'm 58, I've got a cash flow that I don't have to work again if I choose to.
Nice. And then I know you got into investing and all sorts of stuff to keep growing your wealth without having to work long hours.
Exactly.
And really doing what you love. That's a dream. It's, creating wealth, having plenty of money to have the lifestyle you want, doing what you love doing. And you're kind of living that dream.
Yes. And it's funny too, because I keep thinking about, well, my plan right now, you and I discussed this, is to retire from online work. Well, that was supposed to have happened like 2 months ago. And it doesn't look like it's going to happen very easily. But hey, I'm having a good time. I hope you are too.
Absolutely. So let's look at your mindset and how it changed around money. Because you had to become the person who was able to become a multimillionaire in your mind first before you could actually see that as a reality, because we can never be something that we can't imagine that we are. So if someone wants to be rich, but they see themselves as a poor person, they're not going to be rich because that's how they identify. They identify with poverty. So how did is this something that you were aware of, that your mindset was changing around money? Is it something that you were doing deliberately, cultivating that new mindset? How was that for you?
It's funny because as you're asking that and I'm thinking back, I'm realizing I had some silly ideas. One of them was, well, gee, for each property or unit or rental that we have, if it's paid off, and let's say the rent's $1,000 a month, okay, great, we got 50 rentals, that's $50,000 a month, I ought to be able to live on that. The funny part, though, is that you don't have to pay anything off. Like I said, I borrowed money. I went into debt to buy more properties. But I don't think I was actually aware of who I was or what I was doing, other than I've got to fix what's broken. And that means I'm going to have to accumulate money, hang on to it, where in my first marriage, she wanted to live in the style to which she wanted to become accustomed. And she was always outliving whatever I earned. And so that just was not going to work. But she trained me to believe no matter how much money I make, I won't have enough.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the first attitudes I had to change. That I can earn enough money and have money left over. So I don't know that I actually anticipated that I would be wealthy. I just wanted to be able to have an income I didn't have to work for, like it shows in the richest man of Babylon. And I looked at it as a monthly income I needed, not being a multimillionaire.
It's amazing. So what are let's pick out another attitude of the wealthy that you think is really a key to turning a successful business into something much bigger.
One of my favorites is the way wealthy people think. And here's what I'm getting at. You're familiar with the book, The Richest Man of Babylon. A lot of people I talk to are familiar with the book or familiar with the concept. And a lot of times when I'm doing a podcast interview, I will put that person on the spot by saying, okay, please explain it to me. And then they can't. So they've heard of it, they know about it. And here's the difference between the attitude of wealthy people versus ordinary people. Ordinary people, when they hear familiar information, will make statements such as, oh, I've heard of that before. That's not new to me. I know about that. A wealthy person doesn't make statements when they hear familiar information. Instead, they ask questions like, where does that apply for me? Or what should I be doing next? Or who can help me with that? And these are the kind of questions that when you're a child in grammar school, they say, if you're going to write an article, you find out who, what, when, where, and why. Well, the why question is irrelevant here. But the point is the wealthy person will ask questions when they hear something familiar. Like if I say, you should treat yourself like you matter and pay yourself first, just like the richest man in Babylon. They go, instead of, oh, I know that, it's, how should I start that? Or who can help me with that? Or where will I put the money? And that leads to the results.
So really what you're saying is they immediately think, how can I apply that?
Exactly.
So again, we're going back to not just learning something, it's applying it. And that's the definition of a student. A student is someone who applies what they have learned. Otherwise, You're just an observer reading something or listening to something. You can listen to it 10 times over. But actually, if you're not applying it in some way, then you're not going to become the master of that strategy or tactic or whatever it is. And that's what they do. So how do you sift through all, any financial advisor, 100 things vying for their attention. So how do you sift through all of those things that need your attention to say, okay, this is what I need to focus on because this is what's going to help me to grow my business. This is going to impact my clients.
Yeah. The simple thing is from a book I read by Perry Marshall, who I also had on my podcast. It was the 80-20 rule of marketing. And it doesn't matter if it's marketing or growing the business or handling finances or whatever. The 80-20 rule is like a part of nature where 20% of what we do will produce 80% of our results, 80% of our success. And it's focusing on what that 20% is, not the 80% of distractions. And I should do this. I should do social media. I should do podcasts. I should write blogs. I should send out letters. I should send out emails. I mean, there's so many things that an entrepreneur or a financial planner or anyone can be doing that won't produce the results once they know what the 20% is that they should be focusing on, that'll produce 80%. For me, it was investing in real estate. For me, it was making sure my tenants are happy. As an example, during the entire pandemic, and in Los Angeles, I mean, it lasted 4 years. Other places, they went through it a lot more quickly. Anyway, 100% of my tenants paid 100% of their rent through the entire pandemic. Why? Because I focused on the 20% that makes it good tenant who would be a stable tenant. I take care of them, another part of the 20%. And so I had no problems during the pandemic. While I had 2 years worth of reserves in the event no one paid rent, we didn't have to touch a dime of it.
How do you get the discipline to focus on this stuff? Because often it's the stuff that we need to do that we resist doing because of our beliefs, because of there's fear around doing that activity, because there's the risk that it won't work and we don't want to be a failure. There's a risk that no one will want what we've got. Therefore, we'll be rejected. So how do you get that discipline, that ironclad discipline, to go through that fear barrier and come out the other side of that?
It's what I talked about as the very first attitude of the wealthy. Asking for help, not doing it alone. Because we all end up with self-doubts, we all end up with fears, we all end up with those kinds of things. But if we're going through it alone and we're spinning this stuff around in our own head, we're not getting anywhere. I mean, one of the things that I noticed in working with a psychologist is that in speaking to another human being and hearing the stupid stuff that comes out of your mouth is enough to create a change. even if the psychologist doesn't say anything or they ask a question about something you said. But the point is, another human being involved in the process supports you in getting over those fears. And it doesn't matter if it's a coach. It doesn't matter if it's a psychologist. It doesn't matter if it's a business partner or a supportive spouse. I didn't have that in my first marriage. It's another human being. And so that's how you get through that stuff.
Yeah. And then one thing that I like to do is when I'm doing something and it feels a bit risky or it feels new and uncomfortable, I tell other people I'm going to do it, because then I feel accountable and I don't want to let them down and I don't want to let myself down. So I think by telling other people I'm going to do this, it just gives me that fire in my belly to say, I'm going to go through with this. I'm going to do this because that's what they expect of me and that's what I expect of myself. And that really, really helps.
And that's almost the same thing as not doing it by yourself.
Exactly. You've got a team around you cheering you on, helping
Exactly.
you, talk to them about, whatever comes up.
So, there's something really important here, Nina. And I've had people say this to me, and it's important because they'll say, well, yeah, but if I tell my family what I want to do, they're going to criticize me. They're going to tell me why I can't do it. They're going to question why I think I deserve that. And all it's telling me is they're talking to the wrong people.
True. Very true.
And so you know who the people are that will support you. And you also know who the people are you shouldn't be telling these things to.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So make sure you have very supportive people who think big, who dream big like you, and who could really give you that accountability and support that you need when, you're thinking this could be difficult, and they can help you in those moments. I'd love to know, what is your self-talk around money now? What is your attitude towards money? What are your money beliefs now? Because obviously they're completely different. You've probably done like an 180-degree flip in your money beliefs. So how do you think about money now?
Well, one of the old beliefs was you had to work hard for it. And the new belief is the money makes money for me. I don't have to work hard for it at all. As a good example, we have a good sized stock portfolio. And we have a portfolio manager who does covered call option writing on the portfolio. So I don't care if the stock market's going up or down. He's generating premium income from the covered call option writing. And we're making anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 a month in premium income on the portfolio. And I do nothing but talk to him once a week to find out what he's choosing to do that week.
There you go.
I'm making that much money literally doing nothing but having a 15-minute conversation once a week.
Yeah. And that's what you put into, you see, your mindset has created that. It all has to be created from within before we can ever see it in the physical world. So you bought into that with your imagination.
Yeah.
Having money growing for you while you could just be doing what you love doing. So that is your belief. And your belief, as you say, is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So when you believe that, then that's what you get back in life.
Yes.
So it all starts with the mind and our thinking.
What I had to see was other people live like that. And using those examples of, you don't have to work hard for the money. You can have other people supporting you. It can be easy. Tried it on.
Yeah.
And it worked.
And that's what anyone who wants that lifestyle, you have to believe that you are the person who can have that. Because you may think, well, other people have it, but I don't deserve to have it. Or other people can have it, but I'm not the sort of person who could have that lifestyle. So, you have to really make that your self-concept, your self-identity, that you are the person who lives that life. And that can take some work and discipline and commitment, but it changes everything. it changes every single thing in your life, because once you've mastered that about money, you can master that about anything, and you can make up your mind that anything in life is easy for you. It's just an attitude.
Right.
That's all it is. It's an attitude. So this is a question that I ask every guest who comes on. What is the biggest lesson that life has taught you so far?
I'm not sure if it's a lesson or a belief, but it is that everything that happens to me, whether it's good or bad, is, well, I guess now I should rephrase that, because everything that seems to happen to me in my life is good.
Because you expect it. That's your thinking around it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I guess a little modification was, whether it's bad or not, everything is designed to be for my highest and best good.
Nice.
You know, my first wife wanting a divorce turned out to be for my best good.
And her best good maybe as well.
It doesn't look like it 40 years later, but it seems like, God's been looking out for me. I live a blessed life, and it doesn't matter what anything looks like when it happens. My belief is it will be for my highest and best good ultimately.
Nice. And what a lovely belief to carry around in your head and to live your life according to that belief. Wonderful. Thank you. It's been amazing talking to you. I was so looking forward to this conversation, Rennie. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your amazing experience and your values. How can our listeners find out more about you and the amazing work you're doing?
Thank you, Nina. Thank you for the opportunity. I adore you. And if they go to wealthonanyincome.com, they can find out everything about me, including one of the charities that gets 100% of the profits from the work I do, supporting other people to learn how to handle money more powerfully. They can even, if they make a direct donation to sheltertosoldier.com or .org, which is a link at the top of my homepage, they can get a free copy of my book, Attitudes of the Wealthy. They get 100% of the profits go to charity. Click on that link, get a free book, and they grow themselves.
Thank you, everyone who's joined us today. Really enjoyed your company. Till next time. Bye-bye for now.
I hope you enjoyed the episode today on the Wealthy Advisor Mindset. Make sure to hit subscribe on your chosen platform to get notifications on upcoming episodes. If this episode made you think of someone who you think would benefit from listening to it, then go ahead, take a screenshot, and